Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now, today we're at the pretty village of Maiden Newton in Dorset, and it's located about 9 miles northwest of Dorchester. And we're going to be walking a roughly 6-mile circular-ish route. We'll start off looking at a few things in Maiden Newton and then head north, following the River Frome to Chilfrome, then pass through the village of Cattistock before heading up to check out the castle fort on Castle Hill. And then we'll go east by Middle Hill before coming south around Combe Bottom to join a section of the Wessex Ridgeway, and that'll take us back to Maiden Newton. And I'm sure we'll see lots of interesting things along the way. Now, I'm filming at the end of March. It is a glorious spring day. There's blue sky, the sun is out. It's a bit chilly and there's a bit of a wind, but it should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car for free at a place called the Walkers Car Park, which is to the west of the village. So we'll kick off with a little wander through Maiden Newton itself. We're just coming into Maiden Newton, and the road that comes from the west is the A356 that goes to Crewkerne, and I think it's along the remains of an old Roman road. Certainly a 1903 map indicates that it might be part of one. Usually a couple of concrete blocks in front of me. I guess those must be old anti-tank blocks from the Second World War, I'm not sure. Now, the little river here in front of me is the River Hooke. The River Hooke itself is about 6 miles long. The source is at Toller Welm. I think we've been to that on a previous walk, and then it joins up with the River Frome. And this, I think, is the old chapel. I think that it was once a Methodist chapel built in 1871, but not 100% sure. And this building here used to be the Castle Inn. You can see the castle bit by the bridge. And it was opened by at least 1861, but I think it closed in the 1990s. And this is the River Frome, 30 miles long. Now, its source is at Evershot. Of course, we've been to that source as well in a previous walk. And it flows to Wareham and joins the sea at Poole Harbour. Now, down there's the old mill. Now, there were a couple of mills around these parts at the time of the Domesday Book, and I think this mill was built in the 18th century, but it ceased working after the First World War. The building over the road there, the White Horse Hotel. It was an old coaching inn, first mentioned in 1698, but it was rebuilt in the early 20th century. And I believe it was mentioned in Thomas Hardy's novel, The Tess of the D'Urbervilles. There's a stump of the village cross there, which I think dates the 15th century, and it's something like 5 foot high. Now, the building behind the cross used to be a pub called the Royal George, now the Petit Canard. Well, we'll have a wander down Dorchester Road. This is the Chalk and Cheese. Now, once there were 6 pubs in the village, although I have seen one source that suggests there may have been as many as 9 or indeed 15, although many of them may have been just beer houses. But I think this is the only one still remaining. And I think it was previously known as the brewery. Now, this building here shows on an 1887 map as the King's Arms, now called Kingsley. I think there was another pub called the Acorn once further along the street. I've been looking forward to seeing this. And I think this actually is an old fire engine house, believe it or not, built between 1842 and 1843. And its purpose was to, well, house a hand pump. And I think the pump itself might be in the current fire station, I'm not sure. But I think it's a listed building. You can see it's sort of made of red brick and it's very much a single cell building. Now this building here on the corner used to be a pub called the Railway Inn, and it was present by at least 1861, but I think it closed in the 1960s. Now as far as the history of the village is concerned, well, in the Domesday Book it was recorded as Newtone, or maybe Newton meaning new village, and well, the Maiden bit refers perhaps to a historical religious site. And it was known as Chalk Newton in the Thomas Hardy Wessex novels. And at the end of the 19th century it had 3 banks, an iron foundry, a cattle market, and had a fair twice a year. Oh, what a gorgeous church, looking quite magnificent in the morning spring sunshine. It's the Church of St Mary. Now there was a church here in Saxon times, but the present building has origins to the 12th century. I think the north wall of the nave is the oldest part. But the chancel and west tower was rebuilt around about 1400, and the south transept and south aisle added in the 15th century. I think the porch was added, well, dates around about 1500, and the vestry added in 1886. There was a big restoration in the 19th century. I think it's got 6 bells. Okay, well, we'll have a quick peep inside, and just inside the door is the font, octagonal, which I believe dates to the 12th century. And then just moving over to the side of the nave. Now, just behind this sort of wooden altar here, there's a terrific old door. And apparently it's one of the oldest doors in the country, still on its hinges. That is terrific. And there's the organ. Beautifully decorated, isn't it? Not seen one quite like that before. And there's a wooden pulpit. Now interesting, just to the side of it you can see a wooden door. I think that's a blocked up doorway that centuries ago there was a little staircase up to the turret, so I was reading anyway. Just moving through to the chancel. There's a quite glorious stained glass window just above the altar there. Of course, really getting the benefit in the sunshine this morning. And a couple of equally stunning stained glass windows either side. And I love the carvings behind the altar there as well. And just inside the chancel there's a beautiful chest with a date of, looks like 1769 on it. Well, shall we see what our friend Sir Frederick Treves had to say about Maiden Newton in his 1906 book, Highways and Byways in Dorset. Got to have my glasses for this, I'm afraid. Much of the interest in Maiden Newton from the point of view of the tourist has vanished since the pulling down of its famous inn, the White Hart. That's interesting. I always thought it was called the White Horse. Oh well, this beautiful building has been replaced by a hotel of the most uninteresting type. Oh dear. The old White Hart was a charming specimen of the 17th century hostelry. It was a house of 2 stories with dormers in the roof, and the roof was of course of thatch, and the windows provided with stone mullions and dripstones. A gateway with a chamber over led under the house to the stable yard at the back. There are now few relics of the olden times left in this progressive settlement, if exception be made of the church and the mill on the River Frome. The church, which contains much Norman work, is the most charming feature of Maiden Newton. Its surroundings are peculiarly fascinating. The churchyard is a garden of flowers, A vine climbs over the old church porch, and moss have added rich tints of yellow, brown and green to the drab walls, while between the windows and reaching up to the very roof are masses of roses. I think we're a bit early in the year to see the roses. What a beautiful place Maiden Newton is. Okay, we're now going to leave the village and we're going to take a footpath just north of the church. Looks like we're going to start on a part of the Wessex Ridgeway heading to Chilfrome. Just crossing over the River Frome again. Crystal clear water down there. We're actually on part of the Frome Valley Trail, which is a 16-mile long distance path from Evershot to Dorchester. In fact, we've been to the starting point at Evershot in a previous walk. Oh, what a peaceful spot. Lovely to see the daffodils out in full bloom on the bank on the other side there. And this is where we sort of temporarily leave the river for a bit. We're going on the western side of it, following a footpath to Chilfrome. You can see there's some brickwork there, and that is part of the old railway line. Speaking of the old railway line, we're just about to go underneath it. And it was the old Maiden Newton to Bridport branch line. It opened in 1857 and closed in 1975. And of course, the current railway, which we'll be crossing later, is to the east of here. That was opened in 1857, and that was the Wiltshire, Somerset and Weymouth Railway, now the Great Western Railway, the heart of Wessex Line. And of course, there's still an active railway station at Maiden Newton. I do love these river walks, especially on a day like today where the river looks so serene. You really can let your mind wander, can't you? I tell you, it's quite glorious now with the sun, but I say there's a bit of a wind, so it's quite chilly. So Logan's going to keep his little lightweight fleece on just for a little bit longer. Just a little pit stop just to take in some of the view. So that's looking over to the west, and that's to the north where we'll be heading shortly. Ignore the telegraph poles. And then this is looking over to the east, and that's where we'll be heading later on in the walk, I think on the other side of that ridge. Well, I've made my way to the delightful little hamlet of Chilfrome. It's mentioned in the Domesday Book, and it gets its name, well, obviously Frome from the river that passes by it, and the chill bit from the Saxon words silt or ciel, which both mean cold, although other experts have other theories. And this is a very pretty little church, the Church of Holy Trinity. And it's got origins to the 13th century, but I think it's mainly 14th and 15th century core, and it consists of a nave, a chancel, a north vestry and a north porch. And I think it's got one bell. The chancel was rebuilt in 1852 and the rest of the church restored in 1864. Well, we'll have a very quick peep inside. And there's the font just on the right hand side as we come in through the door. And then just making my way down the nave, the pulpit, which is sort of built into the side of the wall there. Looks quite magnificent. And then through into the chancel. Now, I found the lights for the nave, but not for the chancel, so it's a bit dark. But then having said that, you get a much better view of the terrific stained glass window just above the altar there. And then just to the side, there's the organ. Well, we're going to leave Chilfrome and continue heading northwards to our next destination, Cattistock, and I can just see the tower of the church in the distance there. Well, if you didn't already know, spring is here. Look at the primroses on the side of the bank there. Quite exquisite. I'm just crossing over the Frome once again. I think this is St Helens Bridge, and if it is, well, somewhere over in a field to the north there was once an old 13th century chapel in years gone by. Well, we're momentarily heading eastwards, going along a very quiet country road. Looks as though we're going to go underneath the existing railway line and then head northwards to Cattistock. Just coming to the outskirts of Cattistock, and this is Cattistock Cricket Club. Now, there's been a cricket club since, between the two world wars here, and the pavilion there was replaced in the 1980s. And I was reading that teams have been very successful here, winning the Regional Village Trophy a few times, as well as the Dorset League and Knockout Cup. But what a beautiful setting with the church in the background. Wow, just look at this. So this is the Church of St Peter and St Paul at Cattistock. Now, there was a church here in the 12th century built by the monks of Milton Abbey, but that's now long gone. The present church, effectively was rebuilt in 1857, retaining small parts of a 15th century building and a 17th century north chapel wall. And it consists of a nave, a chancel, a north and south chapel, a south aisle, a west tower and a north porch. And the tower is 140 foot high, and it may well be one of the tallest church towers in Dorset. And I think it's got 8 bells. Well, while my travelling companion has a little snooze, let's see what Sir Frederick Treves had to say about Cattistock. Cattistock is a cheery townlet with a very noble church, rebuilt by Sir Gilbert Scott in 1857. Its glory in the minds of the villagers would seem to depend upon its carillon of 35 bells and the enormous size of its clock. This was the first carillon introduced into England and owes its existence to the generosity of the Reverend Keith Barnes, who was rector here from 1863 to 1875. Now, sadly, the carillon, if that's how you pronounce it, is long gone. Now, I wasn't sure what it was, but apparently it's a pitched percussion instrument played with a keyboard and consists of at least 23 bells. Sadly, the bells were all destroyed by a fire in the tower in 1940. Now, Cattistock was originally called Cattistock and was given to Milton Abbey by King Athelstan in around about AD 933. The name comes from, well, stock is farm, and cat, well, possibly a family name. The experts aren't 100% sure. Well, sadly the church was closed, so we couldn't pop inside, so we'll have a look at a few things in the village. And here's the pub, the Fox and Hounds. It's a 17th century pub, and originally it was a medieval longhouse. Now, I did read that it had been closed since July last year, but just speaking to a local, he tells me that it's back open again. Not sure what the opening hours are. It's midday at the moment, and sadly it's not open. Otherwise, of course, we would have popped in purely for research, but we need to kick on. Such a pretty village. Plenty of thatched cottages with roses climbing outside. You know, when you walk through some of these lovely Dorset villages, it takes you back centuries, doesn't it? A different world. Well, we've now left Cattistock and I'm following a footpath in a sort of north-easterly direction that's going to take us to Castle Hill, or round Castle Fort. Now, there's some debate as to if it's a natural formation or man-made, or even a fort. It's an oval enclosure, about 4.5 acres. There's one surrounding bank which dates to the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age, but no obvious ditch as far as I can see. And there are a couple of ramped causeway entrances. The interior is fairly level, and there's a bowl barrow on the summit that dates to between 2400 and 1500 BC. So we're going to sort of circumnavigate it. I think Castle Hill itself is actually on private land. Well, the footpath that we're on goes through a field of cows. It looks like they're calmly joining us behind. They're just inquisitive, and providing we don't do anything sudden, we'll be fine. I'll just give you a little pan across to let you get an idea of some of the views up here today. Of course, no clouds in the sky, completely blue. Well, the next section of our walk, we've got a little bit of road work to do. Doesn't look as though it's a busy road. And then we've got to look out for a footpath on our right. Well, we've found the footpath that takes us away from the road, and now we're going to follow around what looks like the bottom of Middle Hill. I certainly get a great view of Castle Hill from here, looking over to the west, and then just to the north is Middle Hill, which we're walking on a path that goes right around the bottom of it. Or just a little pit stop to look back towards Cattistock and see the church tower there, and this is the track that we've been following along the side of Middle Hill. Indeed, if you look at an old map, it shows there was once one of those ancient British settlements up on the hill, earthworks there. Oh, a little pit stop just to get my breath back, to show you where we've been. So, well, there's Castle Hill in the far distance. So we came along the bottom of Middle Hill, and then a footpath along there to this open access area here, and then down into a valley, and then up onto this ridge. But some terrific views up here. Well, this is our final section, and I think we sort of head around this valley. It's called Combe Bottom, and then we should pick up a track that'll take us back to Maiden Newton. Well, we're very much on the homeward leg now, just past a place called New Barn and joining a track, actually part of the Wessex Ridgeway, that 136-mile long distance path that goes all the way from Marlborough in Wiltshire to Lyme Regis in Dorset. Anyway, this track should take us back to Maiden Newton. And here we are back at Maiden Newton, just passed underneath the railway line, and there's the railway station up there on the right. Right, I reckon there's one more place we need to visit. Well folks, here we are in the beer garden of the Chalk and Cheese, just testing out their ale. It's called Exmoor Ale, and I believe it comes from Somerset. Very nice too. And yep, they've got your favourites. Pipers. Well, we hope you enjoyed the walk today. Weather has been quite glorious. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Try another one. Good boy.